This is CBN NewsWatch.
It is Wednesday, March 24th, 2021. I'm Ephraim Graham. Ahead today, why did he do it? That is the question investigators are asking in that supermarket shooting in Boulder, Colorado. Among the victims, a Christian police officer who was the first to respond to the calls of the attack. Indecision in Israel. Who will be in charge of the new government? Some potentially surprising developments, and we'll bring you the story from Jerusalem. Election integrity, a major concern for millions of Americans since last November. Looking at how to deal with this critical issue with a panel of leading political experts in a conference at Regent University. And salvations and miracles in Texas, as Sean Foyt brought his Let Us Worship Revival event to the Lone Star State. All those stories and more are ahead in today's edition of CBN NewsWatch. I want to begin this half hour with the investigation into this shooting in Boulder, Colorado. Investigators still do not have a motive for the suspect. 21-year-old Ahmad Alawi Alisa, an American born in Syria, is described as someone given to fits of rage. He's accused of killing 10 people at a supermarket. Today, a makeshift memorial is outside that grocery store as grieving relatives remember the victims, including a manager at the store, Ricky Olds, who was only 25, Jody Waters, a 26-year-old grandmother, and 51-year-old veteran policeman Eric Talley, the first officer to respond to the shooting and the father of 7.
My son gave his life to save those people at the King's Acres. He gave it all, and the hate still continues.
Talley's father said, above all else, he loved his family and his Lord, Jesus Christ. This latest violence has renewed talks of gun control on Capitol Hill as President Biden is considering executive action on guns as well. But for now, the focus is on Congress. CBN's Capitol Hill correspondent Abigail Robertson has this look at why Democrats are hopeful they may finally get a measure across the finish line.
Democrats on Capitol Hill have long wanted stricter gun control laws and specifically background checks. They now believe this is the time that change will happen.
I think we're potentially at the dawn of a new era.
President Biden said Tuesday he wants common sense solutions passed in the House and Senate.
We can ban assault weapons and high-capacity magazines in this country once again. I got that done when I was a senator. It passed. It was law for the longest time. And it brought down these mass killings. We should do it again.
Democrats are also calling for items like increased background checks and extreme risk laws, where family members and friends could report people they're concerned about owning a firearm.
Before each of the tragedies in Tucson, Aurora, Navy Yard, and Santa Barbara, family members and law enforcement saw warning signs, but they were powerless to stop the shooter from getting a firearm.
An idea one Heritage Foundation scholar said in a hearing she believes could get significant bipartisan support.
When you look at the general idea of targeted interventions of people who are showing these risk factors, we're dealing with things that, again, are targeted and not broadly impacting people who are not likely to be a danger to themselves or others.
But on background checks, Swearer testified she does not believe that fixes the problem.
When you look specifically at mass public shootings, as I mentioned to Senator Grassley earlier, the biggest problem is that most of these individuals, despite these warning signs, were able to pass background checks and obtain their firearms legally.
Majority Leader Chuck Schumer vowed Tuesday to push the Senate on these measures.
The Senate is going to debate and address the epidemic of gun violence in this country. Today, our hearts are with the people of Colorado and with everyone whose lives have been touched by gun violence.
Republicans were open to discussing background checks and red flag laws in 2019, but never passed anything. The Democratic leader says this Senate will be different. Reporting from Virginia, Abigail Robertson, CBN News.
I want to turn now to Israel, where election officials are still counting votes in Tuesday's pivotal election. As Chris Mitchell reports from Jerusalem, the final results will determine if Israel will have a stable government or continue its political gridlock, leading to yet another election.
The immediate exit polls show Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu with a slim possibility to form a right-wing government with 61 seats.
I think that now what we need to do is form a coalition. I believe Bennett, maybe even Saab, should come to Netanyahu and say, we understand the result of the elections, we are part of the right-wing government.
But as more results came in, the possibility of a right-wing government seemed more uncertain. In order to form a government, Netanyahu will need the support of Naftali Bennett and his Yamina party. Bennett did not commit to serving with Netanyahu yet, but to hold right-wing values.
I'm determined to advance the values of the right in every government that will be formed. But a real right-winger does not hate, he unites.
On the left, Yair Lapid's party was the big winner. He led the bloc of parties who want to topple Netanyahu. Those parties have just under 61 seats necessary to form a government. 10 smaller parties split the remainder of the seats in parliament. They range from secular left-wing parties, Arab parties, and the ultra-Orthodox Jewish parties. Even with these divided results, some say the country won't tolerate a fifth election.
I think likely we're not going to have a fifth election. I think there is a lot of cynicism. We've had a Groundhog Day. It's kind of happening again. I think the country and, frankly, the political leaders want to have a certain amount of stability. Frankly, if we're trying to put together the country itself wanting to function.
The next several days will be critical. Because of the COVID pandemic, more absentee ballots have been cast, and those votes are being counted. They could shift the delicate balance of power one way or the other.
And Chris Mitchell joins us now with more. So, Chris, tell us about the role of the Islamist Ra'am Party. Who are they and what could happen?
Well, Ephraim, that's the latest twist in this election. Who are they? They're an Arab party, Islamist party, that broke away from the other Arab parties. That's called the Joint List. And right now, because of the mathematics right now, they're emerging as a possible kingmaker. What's happened is that the anti-Netanyahu bloc is under 60 or 61 seats. So is the pro-Netanyahu bloc. So right now, that puts Ra'am and its leader, Mansour Abbas, in the driver's seat. They have 5 seats. And right now, they're pragmatic. They're saying they're willing to go either way, and they're going to listen to both blocs. That would be Yair Lapid, probably on the left, Netanyahu on the right, and they may use those 5 seats to make either one of the left or the right the next prime minister or the next party in power in the parliament. So, as I said, it's the latest twist. It could be dramatic, and it's the latest thing that's happening right now in the elections. That's changing almost daily. Final results come out Friday, and by then we should have a clearer picture of what's happening.
So if Netanyahu isn't the prime minister this time, who might it be instead?
Well, that might be up to Mansour Abbas and who he decides to go with. Netanyahu right now seems to be the most likely opportunity, but Yair Lapid would be the other possibility. He has the most seats on the left, but he also has a hard path. And right now on the left, there's really a sort of odd bedfellows. They're all united in the fact that they are anti-Netanyahu. They don't want him to continue as prime minister. It's a combination of left-leaning parties, right-wing parties, and the Arab parties. One other possibility is Naftali Bennett. If he becomes a kingmaker when the mathematic and the final count finally comes out this possible Friday, he could ask for a rotation with Netanyahu. And he could also go to the left if the mathematic works out right now. And a real long shot is Benny Gantz. Some say if a government is not formed by this November, that the coalition agreement he struck last year with Netanyahu would still be in effect. But remains to be seen. It really possible, Ephraim, to set the stage for another 5th election.
So now, Chris, it seems Israelis are really split. What are the key differences between the right and the left?
Well, in some ways, it's like it is in the United States. The right wing, more fiscally conservative, less government, more free market. For example, Bennett, when we interviewed Naftali Bennett, he said he wants a Reagan-esque kind of economy recovery. They're more religious. They're leery of the peace process. They don't want to give away land. On the left side, they're more secular, less free market, more open to giving away land. And I would say just add this, Ephraim, both left and right, really abortion, unlike the U.S., is not really a big issue over here in Israel, just some of the differences between the U.S. and Israel here, left and right.
All right, Chris Mitchell reporting from Jerusalem. Thank you so much. Back here at home, more on the crisis at the nation's border. New video from inside one of the crowded facilities shows poor conditions of migrant minors housed there. While the White House works out a plan to handle the wave of migrants at the southern border, the situation could get worse. Charlene Aaron has the story.
The number of immigrants crossing the southwestern border on pace for the highest level in 20 years. This video, shot by Customs and Border Protection last week, show a wave of asylum seekers huddled in close quarters, some sleeping on floors and under foil blankets. Many of the facilities now home to a record number of migrant children, and although they're only supposed to stay there for a maximum of 72 hours, many of them are being held well past that limit.
These Border Patrol facilities are not places made for children.
The Biden administration under growing pressure after refusing requests from the media for access to the centers, granted several times under the Trump administration, finally releasing images showing conditions inside the detention centers, many now surging well past capacity. Internal Custom Border Patrol documents obtained by ABC News show nearly 4,000 immigrants in the Donna, Texas facility that is meant to hold just 250. This pregnant woman and her 8-year-old son fled Honduras, arrived at the U.S. border only to be expelled, highlighting the extreme risks migrants are willing to take for a chance at life in America. The White House blaming the Trump administration for the crisis.
We were left with a very challenging situation.
Conservatives argue President Biden invited the surge of migrants at the border with his promises to migrants during the campaign. Regardless of the political debate, at some point, the White House will have to come up with solutions. Charlene Aaron, CBN News.
Coming up, election integrity has been a major concern for millions of voters since the November election. And Regent University held its conference on the issue with some top names in politics taking part. We're going to bring you our report when we come back.
On October 1st, 1961, history was made when a tiny station began transmitting the first signals of the Christian Broadcasting Network.
CBN, the Christian Broadcasting Network.
And now, a new era has begun with the all-new CBN News Channel.
Just moments ago, the Iron Dome intercepted an incoming rocket right on the Gaza border.
Administering in this area, spiritual warfare is definitely involved.
A 24/7 news network, bringing you the news you want from a source you can trust.
In Kenya, 40% of the medical services are actually provided by these Christian hospitals.
Let's talk about the economy.
Believers here are joining together to win people to Jesus Christ.
All your favorite shows now in one place. Go to CBNNewsChannel.com to find out how to get the CBN News Channel on your TV all day, every day. CBN News. Life is better with a good night's sleep. Get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep today.
Life. It's meant to be lived fully. Jesus said it. I came to give you life. Life to the fullest. Life in your family. Life in your finances. Life in your body, mind, and spirit. Life in your everyday. At CBN.com, we're taking what Jesus said seriously. We're here to help you discover life. Life. Live it fully. CBN.com.
Welcome back. Regent University held its first conference on election integrity Tuesday. It featured big names in politics and media, as well as some of the leading experts in the field of election fraud.
Regent's new dean for the School of Government kicked off the conference. Former Congresswoman Michelle Bachmann said America can't allow national elections to be stolen.
Without an honest count of votes,
We won't have a way to remove leaders that we don't want. And we won't have a way to get rid of laws that we don't like. Instead, a permanent group of elites will ensure their own continued power. And that will require you and me to live the way the elites tell us to.
Keynote speaker Ben Carson said he's appalled how people are being shut up now if they want any fraud wiped out going forward.
Even speaking about having honest and morally principled elections causes all kinds of uproars today.
A panel of election experts ripped into H.R. 1, a bill the Senate's now considering that detractors say would be a federal takeover of state election laws.
It basically throws open the vote to almost anyone who wants to pretend that they have a right to vote, who can vote twice, who can vote from out of state, who can vote if they're dead. Look, I believe in respect for our dead, but I also believe that we should have no representation without respiration.
It's just one bad provision after another. The whole intent of this law appears to be to make it easy to cheat, to make it easy to get away with it, and to make it almost impossible to detect or prosecute.
I like to say that H.R. 1 is unworkable, it's immoral, and it's unconstitutional. Sometimes I refer to that as the swamp trifecta. That's Washington, D.C. for you.
It's all a partisan power grab. There's not a single good idea in this entire 900-page bill.
And political commentator Mark Stein worries H.R. 1 could permanently warp American elections and democracy.
This is a recipe for a permanent one-party swamp, which is the ruling party and a controlled opposition in permanent minority status.
Stein suggests half the country permanently disenfranchised could be a powder keg.
Where we have groups of people who simply do not want to be in the same country with the other group.
Paul Strand, CBN News, Washington.
Still ahead, we're hearing a more personal side of a musical genius. See how months alone in quarantine led Harry Connick Jr. to create an entire album where he played every instrument, sang every note. We'll have our look at that conversation with him when we come back right after this.
Life is better with a good night's sleep. Get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep today.
Welcome to Studio 5 Uncut. This is our opportunity to share extended conversations with some of the great guests we've had on Studio 5.
You can't go anywhere on the planet and not see the impact of gospel music on popular culture.
Now you're a comedian and a Christian. You know, why is that such a baffle?
Being an artist who is Christian and an artist who's in hip-hop culture, I'm trying to find my own sound.
Studio 5 Uncut. Next.
Remember for a moment what it was like to be a child. You believed every story you were told. You saw a world full of endless possibilities. What stories will the world's orphaned and at-risk children believe? We believe the Bible tells the only story truly worth believing. We believe that every child should have the opportunity to dream. The chance to take challenges and turn them into possibilities. The chance to stand on the promises of God. To recognize their place in the greatest story ever told. They have their whole lives ahead of them. Theirs is a world of endless possibilities. They are looking for a story to believe. We will tell them that story. Will you join us?
Harry Connick Jr. is no doubt one of the greatest voices and musicians of our time. He's also a talented actor. But in his latest project, he's sharing a more personal side of himself, his faith. His new album is called Alone with My Faith. We sat down with him in Studio 5 to get the story behind the music. Alone with My Faith What gave birth to that?
I really was physically alone, but I had my faith to help get me through and continue to help get me through this time. So I wrote the song, I recorded it, and decided to, you know, make it the title track on the album.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound.
I grew up, you know, in New Orleans, and I was really lucky to have a lot of friends who played gospel music. I played gospel music. I heard liturgical music my whole life growing up in the church, and I always wanted to make a gospel album. I wouldn't call this the gospel album I had thought about making, only because it's not a collection of spirituals that everybody knows. It's got some original songs, and quite honestly, some of the songs deal with struggling with faith as much as having faith.
But now I see.
I found myself counting on my faith or questioning my faith or whatever it was, and I said, I'm gonna write about it. And so the album that I thought was going to be a gospel album, you know, 5-10 years down the road, turned out to be this album now, because it was really helping me get through this time.
My fears relieved.
We hear you record Amazing Grace, and I understand that your daughter actually ends up directing the music video and choosing the art for this project. How did that happen? How did she get involved? And how do you feel, Dad?
I feel amazing. My wife and I have 3 daughters, and Georgia's the oldest. She's 24, and she is an amazing photographer and film director. And it came time to shoot the album cover, and I said, Georgia, you know, I'd love for you to do it. So she took an amazing picture, and then came time to do the video for Amazing Grace. I said, you know, you feel like working with me on this? She said, I would love to. So she found the location, she sort of mapped out her artistic vision, and I was, you know, I thought it was terrific. I couldn't be more proud.
He will be my shield and portion, as long as life endures.
What can people look forward to hearing that, you know, you wrote as a result?
I'm a Christian, and I'm proud of my faith, but I also realize that this is a big world, and there's a lot of people in it, and I love and respect them so much, and I wanted to include them in this process too. So some of the songs are certainly from a Christian perspective, like "Oh Rugged Cross" or "Because He Lives" or "How Great Thou Art," but there are other songs that I wrote that are about faith. In every level of faith, whether you're feeling doubtful about it or whether you're super powerfully strong about it, those are the original songs. And I think it gives us some worth in our contemporary world, because, you know, again, this is a shared experience. So these songs are written for what we're all going through together.
I think I've read you say that this was an album that you not only had to produce, but you needed to write this album. Why did you need to do this?
Well, I needed it for myself to sort of sing the songs that helped me articulate my feelings. And I also had the knowledge that maybe, if I was lucky, this music could give some other folks some comfort too.
We've no last days to sing God's praise than when we first
Harry's Alone with My Faith project is out right now wherever you get your music. Now, for more uplifting entertainment stories like this, be sure to catch an all-new Studio 5 this evening at 8:30 Eastern Standard Time. You can find it on the CBN News Channel. Coming up next, how the presence of God filled a dirt field in Texas this weekend and led hundreds to the altar. More on that story when we come back. Stay with us.
Life is better with a good night's sleep. Get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep as the world watches from the outside.
It's a big diplomatic tug of war here in the Middle East.
Go inside the story with Jerusalem Dateline.
Israeli archaeologists are talking about a discovery that could change the thinking about the Temple Mount.
Join CBN Jerusalem Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell and get the biblical perspective on the events shaping the world.
What starts in Israel then ends up going to other places.
Watch Jerusalem Dateline Friday night at 8:30 on the CBN News Channel.
Life. It's meant to be lived fully. Jesus said it. I came to give you life. Life to the fullest. Life in your family. Life in your finances. Life in your body, mind, and spirit. Life in your everyday. At CBN.com, we're taking what Jesus said seriously. We're here to help you discover life. Life. Live it fully. CBN.com.
Your news channel. Your shows. The stories you care about. Anytime you want. Anywhere you want. Download the CBN News app today.
Thousands watched miracles happen in Lubbock, Texas during Sean Foyt's Let Us Worship Revival event this past weekend. Foyt said 5 people were set free from same-sex attraction and 2 were deaf, left with the ability to hear. The revival continued at Fort Worth on Sunday, where Foyt encouraged people to pray for the Holy Spirit to strengthen churches in America. Foyt pointed to scriptures as he said Christians must rise up and show people who are heavy-hearted the gospel of Christ has the answer for them. Time now for your Wednesday word, and today I want to leave you with this thought to ponder. No approach to God should be out of routine or ritual. Your morning prayer, evening prayer, and even grace over your meals are an extension of your relationship with the God you're praying to. It's not a routine or ritual. It's a relationship. With that word, I'm encouraging you today to make this a wonderful Wednesday. That is going to do it for this edition of CBN News Watch. I want to remind you, you can always find more of our programs on the CBN News Channel. You can also find them online at cbnnews.com at any time. We'd love to know what you think about the stories you've seen here today. You can email us at the address right there at the bottom of your screen, newswatch@cbn.com. You can also reach out and touch us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We look forward to seeing you right back here, same time tomorrow.